Today, we're going to be talking about warming up. The main purpose of a warm up is to increase your core body temperature, increase the blood flow to the muscles and oxygen availability, and increase the speed and sensitivity of the neuromuscular system. Ultimately, you can think of it as preparing your mind and body for the training that is to come. So, what do? Take out your foam roller, your massage gun, your massage ball, take those out, and then place them in the trash because we don't need those to warm up. Here's what you're actually going to do. You're going to practice the movement you're going to be doing, or at least get as close as you can comfortably at the beginning of your workout. So for example, if you're going to be back squatting, try an air squat or a goblet squat or an assisted squat on the side of a rack. Or you can do what I do and what I recommend people do is just start with an empty bar set. Empty bar sets is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to do a couple, like 1 to 3 sets just with an empty bar. The number of sets you do to feel prepared is personal preference, but I think 1 to 3 is a good starting place. The goal is to prepare you for your weighted warm-up sets, and these are where it gets a little more important. How do you select a weight for a warm-up? Well, you should have an idea of what you're going to be working up to for the day. Unless it's your very first time doing an exercise, you should have an idea of what weight you're going to be working up to, give or take roughly 5%. This will allow you to make educated, weighted warm-up decisions. So what does this look like in practice? The weighted warm-ups are going to be about 3 to 5 sets increasing weight, where the weight jumps are going to get smaller as you approach your working weight. You don't want any mental surprises here. So what I mean by that is you should not take the weight off the rack and you're thinking, oh wow, that was heavy. We don't want that. So for example, if you're working up to a top set of 5 at 285 pounds, you might start with 5 reps at 135 and then make a pretty big jump, a 50-pound jump to 185, and then you're making a smaller 40-pound jump, 225, even smaller 30-pound jump, 255, and then a 20-pound jump, 275. And then for your last jump, you're going to just make a 10-pound jump from 275 to 285 because, like I said, I want to avoid any mental surprises here. And if you overshoot a weighted warm-up, that's okay. You can track it as a working set. And remember, that means an RPE of like anything greater than 5. A couple things to consider here. Warm-up sets should be specific to the rep range you're going to be working in. If you're doing sets of 8, you probably want to be progressing up sets of 8 using the method I just listed in the previous slide. If you're doing sets of less than 5, first, you probably want to do a few sets of 5 just to get the blood flowing, because it's going to be hard just doing sets of 1 to 2 and 3 to get blood flowing really. And then make sure your last 1 to 3 sets are rep range specific. So for example, if you're working up to a triple at 225 pounds at RPE 8 and then back off sets of 5s, you're going to start with your 5s. So 5 at 135, 5 at 165, 5 at 195. And then we're going to start making smaller jumps and work into triples. Like I said, again, making smaller jumps. So a triple at 205, a triple at 215, and then a triple, your working set at 225. Do I need to rest between warm-up sets? Good question. I'm glad you asked. Well, it really depends on your training age. So for newer lifters, you can take 2 to 3 minutes rest for the first 2 to 3 weighted warm-ups, and then 3 or 4 minutes rest between the last few warm-ups and then your working sets. For more advanced, you don't really need to take rest other than the time it takes to load the bar, but then towards the end sets, when you're getting closer to your working weight, you can take some minimal rest, like 1 or 2 minutes. So there's a few main reasons for this. First, advanced lifters are going to be working with higher absolute loads, so the warm-ups are going to be much less fatiguing relatively as they work their way up. Second, more advanced lifters can be more skilled at guessing warm-ups. Third, the warm-up volume for newer lifters, since it's closer to the weight they're going to be working up to relatively, can actually drive adaptation. And finally, more advanced lifters tend to have more working sets, so it just comes down to timing. Okay, I'm finally done with the first exercise. Do I need to warm up again? Good question. I'm glad you asked. The protocol I just outlined really only applies if it's the first exercise of the day or the first exercise for a muscle group or movement pattern. An example of this would be if you squat first and then go to bench. Those are totally different muscle groups. You're probably going to want to warm up bench somewhat similarly. However, if the muscle group is already warm or the movement pattern is similar, you can either A, get right into it, or B, do a few weighted warm-ups. And this is going to be based on preparedness and personal preference, so how ready you feel to do it. An example of this would be going from flat bench to an incline bench. There's a lot of carryover in the muscle groups. There's a lot of overlap, so you probably can either get right into it or do a few weighted warm-ups. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and here's the references.